Welcome back to the reflection room. So I came across this message the other day about feeling left out or excluded socially, and I wanted to react to it because honestly, I think this is something that almost all of us have experienced, but we just don't talk about it enough. Feeling left out can be one of the most painful emotional experiences. And I promise you, it's not just in your head. Social exclusion actually activates the same areas in your brain as physical pain. So if you've ever felt hurt or rejected or even embarrassed when you weren't included, there's a real reason for that. The reality is that whether it's a friend or a family member or a coworker, being excluded hurts, and that's absolutely true. But I want to add something important here. Not every exclusion is intentional. Sometimes people are unaware, sometimes dynamics in relationships shift, and sometimes, people can be a little bit inconsiderate. The key is not to immediately internalize it as something is wrong with me. That's where self-worth comes in. I really appreciate the reminder to focus on your self-worth during these moments because exclusion has a way of making us question ourselves. We start thinking, what did I do? Or what's wrong with me? Or why wasn't I invited? But your value is not determined by someone else's invitation list or their attention or even their awareness. Now, some people may say if they don't recognize your worth, it's their loss. You might have heard something like that over the years. And I agree with it. I agree with the spirit of that. But I want to ground it a bit. It's not just about dismissing people. It's about recognizing where you are valued and where you're not, and making intentional choices about where you should invest your energy. Because here's the trap. When we feel left out, we often try harder to prove ourselves. We overextend ourselves, we overgive, or we even chase validation, and that usually leads to more disappointment. So instead, I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I trying to be chosen by people who are not choosing me? That shift alone can be really powerful. At the end of the day, being left out says more about the situation or the relationship dynamic than it does about your worth as a person. So if you find yourself in that space right now, I want you to remember this. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for you. You're allowed to find or create spaces where you belong. So thanks for listening to my mini TED Talk. And my suggestion is always the same for you. Make sure you keep reflecting.